Everyone, this is David here from Scizorxphlosion. Hold on a second, let me scoot this camera back just a little bit. There we go. Alright, David here from Scizorxphlosion, guys, and I'm joined here once again by Julian.
What's up?
Chris.
What's up?
And Leia. Aren't you going to say something, Leia?
Hi.
And we are here to deck profile for you a very cool deck. This is Michael's deck. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here for this deck profile, but he did leave me his deck, and Michael has been trying to make a shrine deck that is unique, and he's really had his eye on, non-GX Golisopod, baby Golisopod, for the main attacker in this deck. Well, one of the main attackers anyway. This Pokemon has an ability that's really cool and makes it harder to KO, plus it's got a really strong attack against EXs and GX Pokemon. But we're going to get onto that once we get to Golisopod. But this is a Shrine deck that plays, you know, the standard 4 Tapu Kokos and a few Hoopas here and there, and a whole bunch of supporters. No Tapu Lele like most of these Shrine decks do. But this deck is very consistent. It's very strong. It's hard to take down, and it can be annoying. It can be very annoying to play against. But without further ado, guys, let's get on to this Tapu Koko Golisopod Shrine deck. Really cool idea. I really like it. Alright, so first off, we got 4 copies of Tapu Koko with the Flying Flip attack, free retreat cost. Flying Flip is 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Really strong attack, spread all the damage on your opponent's Pokemon, making it that much easier to take down. So 4 copies of Tapu Koko. The free retreat is really awesome in that deck as well. Retreat, the ability to retreat freely into whatever you want is just invaluable. Next up, guys, we have 4 copies of Wimpod. Oh, there's only 3. 4 copies of Wimpod. I think this one is supposed to be the Wimp Out Wimpod, but I'm not 100% sure since Mike's not here. We've got 4 copies of Wimpod, and he's got this ability, Wimp Out. During your first turn, this Pokemon has no retreat cost, so it's really good to get him, if you start Wimpod, get him back onto the bench. If you have something else you can retreat into, like you draw into Tapu Koko, or Ultra Ball to Tapu Koko, Nest Ball to Tapu Koko, something like that. Ideally, you want to start Tapu Koko in these decks, so you have the ability to retreat into whatever you want. But 4 copies of Wimpod. And then we've got 3 copies of Golisopod. This is the non-GX Golisopod. That is really cool. It's got 130 HP. Essentially, though, it has 160, because it has this ability called Armor. It says this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. Just straight up like that. So any opposing Tapu Koko decks could not do any damage to it, because they just automatically block 30 damage. So this makes this Golisopod really, really strong. Mike also does play bodybuilding dumbbells in this deck, giving it 170 HP. Essentially, though, giving it 200. They're going to have to hit 200 in order to knock this out in one shot, which is really amazing. He also plays some other techie cards in here that just make Golisopod really, really strong in this deck. But yeah, the armor ability is really awesome. Then he has the attack Resolute Claws. For Grass Double Colorless, does 80 damage plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon is in Pokemon EX or Pokemon GX, this attack does 70 more damage. So you can hit 150 or 180 with a choice band with this attack. Really powerful. Really good non-GX attacking Pokemon that can hit some high numbers in damage and be extremely bulky at the same time. So yeah, 3 copies of Golisopod. Next up, Mike runs 2 copies of Hoopa, your worst nightmare. It's got the Scoundrel Guard ability. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX. Really strong ability, really cool. Then it's got the Super Cybolt attack for Darkness Double Colorless is 80 damage. Hoopa is annoying for a lot of decks. I know when I played against Michael with this deck, Hoopa is so annoying. It's like you have to come up with a specific strategy just to take on Hoopa. But make sure you guys' decks are prepared to take on Hoopa. Make sure you have some kind of really strong non-GX attacker that can just come up and either one-shot or two-shot him, something like that, because Hoopa is a threat in the metagame. He does top tournaments very, very often. I know just in the last regional they had in Germany, there was a Wailord Steelix deck that did really well. It got like 6th place, and it played some Hoopa in there as well. And that deck was a pure stall, and we're actually building that deck for you guys. Julian's getting that deck together. We're going to profile that for you guys soon. So anyway, 2 copies of Hoopa. Next up, we got 2 copies of Oranguru. For that instructability, you don't play Tapu Lele, so really your most reliable draw support is Oranguru. You get him on the bench, start instructing your little hiney off. Get as many cards into your hand as you can. Hopefully you draw into a draw supporter or that Guzma you need. That way you can get your field set up and all that. You've got Psychic also here to take down opposing Hoopa decks. If they have a Hoopa that has 3 energies on it, you can take it down in one shot with Psychic. Psychic does 60 damage plus 20 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Pretty strong attack. And for the last Pokemon, guys, 1 copy of Baby Buzzwole. We got Baby Buzzwole with that Sledgehammer attack for 1 fighting energy. If your opponent has exactly 4 prize cards remaining, this deck does 90 more damage. So hit 120 for 1 fighting energy, or actually in this deck we play Rainbow Energy. So yeah, pretty strong attack there. 1 copy of Buzzwole, guys. And now we get on to the supporters. First up, we got 3 copies of Lily. He doesn't play any Cynthia in this deck, which is pretty interesting, and I don't think he needs it because I played some games with him, and he did just fine without Cynthia. He does play some alternatives, though, to Cynthia. 3 copies of Lily lets you draw till you have 6 cards in your hand. If it's your first turn, draw till you have 8. Next up, we got 4 copies of Tate and Liza. He plays Tate and Liza over Cynthia for 2 reasons. 1, it still does the same thing, but just 1 card less. Or you can switch your Pokemon, which is really good. We play a lot of special energy in this deck, and we don't want to be discarding them if we can help it. So yeah, Tate and Liza, the switching ability becomes invaluable in this deck. So 4 copies of Tate and Liza. 4 copies of Guzma. Guzma is very important, and 4 is essential to this deck because you want to take down the Pokemon you want to take down when you want to take them down in this deck. If you get a Golisopod charged up, you just don't want to let it sit on the bench there and not take a knockout. You want to Guzma up a GX and destroy it. And Golisopod can help you do that. It hits some pretty high numbers, pretty hard damage. If you have a fully charged Golisopod, you can take out a Marshadow GX, which is really popular in the metagame right now, with 1 single hit. So yeah, that's pretty strong. 4 copies of Guzma. 2 copies of Lusamine. We do play Shrine of Punishment in this deck, and we naturally play supporters as well. So Lusamine can get back some of those supporters you want to get back. Also get back your shrines if they just get discarded, because you want Shrine to be up as many turns as possible in this turn. That Shrine damage may not sound like a lot of damage, but it builds up quite quickly. So 2 copies of Lusamine. 1 copy of Acerola to end up the supporters, guys. Normally you wouldn't see Acerola in these kind of decks, but Golisopod is very, very, very bulky. Golisopod's very, very bulky, and you can Acerola him back into your hand, then start charging up another Golisopod, or maybe evolve a Wimpod you have on the bench already into Golisopod, and get those energies charged up, bring him up, and start attacking with them as soon as possible. 1 copy of Acerola. Now on to the items, guys. We play 3 copies of Ultra Ball. Your standard search for most Pokemon decks. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and add it to your hand. 3 copies of Nest Ball. This deck is an evolution deck. It's an evolution shrine deck, so you want to get those Golisopods down, or those Wimpods down as quickly as possible, so you can get them evolved into Wimpods. Also, this helps out if you don't have the Tapu Koko. For some reason, when we were playing our games last night, Mike would never start a Tapu Koko, which is weird because he plays 4 copies of him. But Tapu Koko is the essential lead in this deck, so you want to get him down if you didn't draw him into your hand. So Nest Ball Hill is there to help you out with that. 3 copies of Bodybuilding Dumbbells. This is really good for those Golisopods. Makes them has 170 HP, and essentially that turns it into a 200 HP with his ability. So if your opponent wants to one-shot you, they're going to have to hit 200 damage just to one-shot you, which is really, really high and really hard to do with a non-GX, non-EX Pokemon. So 3 copies of Bodybuilding Dumbbells, guys. 2 copies of Choice Band, there to hit those GXs. This deck is made to take down GX decks. So Choice Band is there to help put a little extra damage on the board, plus your shrine damage, plus your attack damage. That damage can really pile up real quickly. 2 copies of Choice Band. 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher. You can either put a Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or shuffle 3 Pokemon from discard pile into your deck. 2 is essential because you want to get those Tapu Kokos. Tapu Koko is probably the most important Pokemon in this deck. Also, your Hoopas, if they happen to get knocked out, get them back on the bench and get them charged up again so they can go into round 2. Rescue Stretcher is really valuable. And the last item we play, guys, is 1 copy of Field Blower. Just to get rid of some of those stadiums we don't like, or maybe we don't have a shrine in our hand, we can get rid of a stadium of our opponents. Or, excuse me. or some of their items. Maybe they play bodybuilding dumbbells, which is an item that has been picking up in play a lot lately. So 1 copy of Field Blower. For the stadium guys, you know what it is. 3 copies of Shrine of Punishment. Between turns, put 1 damage counter on each Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX, both yours and your opponent's. Fortunately, we do not play any GXs in this deck, so this is purely on our opponent if they play GXs or EXs. They won't play EXs unless you're playing Expanded, but... but anyway, this card is even seeing play in Expanded format as well. It's just that good. Shrine of Punishment is really, really strong. But it adds up quickly. These damage counters add up quickly. That means by the time it gets back to your turn, your opponent has already taken 2 damage counters on each of their EXs and GXs, which is basically a Tapu Koko spread. So, I mean, yeah, Shrine of Punishment is very, very strong and very important to this deck's build. And guys, to end off the energies, or to end off the deck with energies, we have 5 copies of Basic Grass, 4 copies of Rainbow Energy. We have Hoopas, we have Golisopods, and we have Buzzwoles. And they don't have a Reunion Energy that has all 3 of those types, so we gotta play Rainbows. And then 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy. Almost all of our attackers take Double Colorless Energy to attack, with the exception of Buzzwole. Our Hoopas and our Golisopods and our Kokos all take those. Even if we have to charge up a Rangaroo, he takes them. So DCE is very crucial to this deck. If we still had special charge, it would be a card worth playing in here. But that is the deck profile, guys. Let us know what you think down below. Michael started talking to me about this deck a while back, and I was like, wow, that sounds like a really good idea, just because that Golisopod is so bulky. And, I mean, even Zoroark, even without the bodybuilding dumbbells, Zoroark can't one-shot him. It's just that powerful. It doesn't matter what they do. Even if they play, Choice Band doesn't affect them. The only thing they can do is Devoured Field or Kukui. Kukui wouldn't even work either, because he has 130 HP. With Devoured Field, he'd hit 130, minus 30, plus 20, so that's still 120. So even with Kukui and Devoured Field, Zoroark could not take down this Golisopod in one shot. So yeah, Golisopod, what do you guys think about this non-GX Golisopod Shrine Deck? I think it's really interesting. I think it's really powerful. Maybe you guys could give it a try yourselves. Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. Leave a like and a comment below if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel, guys. We do giveaways. Our next one's going to be at 200 subscribers, so y'all stay tuned for that. It's going to be a big one, I can tell you that right now. But we haven't decided on the final giveaway, but once we do, we will let you know. This is David, Julian, Chris, and Leia from Scizorxphlosion, and we'll see you guys all next time.